PT, I didn't raise my voice when the HOA president shouted across the table about community rules and restricted lake access. I just opened the leather folder I'd been carrying under my arm, slid the stamped deed across to their attorney, and pointed to one paragraph. It wasn't flashy or long, but it carried weight that years of board meetings and rule changes could never touch. The words were simple. Owner maintains full control of the dam and inflow structure. Their lawyer went pale before the president even finished her sentence. All the noise in the room drained away after that, leaving only the sound of paper sliding across wood. I didn't need to say much more. They finally realized the lake they thought they owned, the reservoir they depended on for property value and recreation, flowed entirely at my discretion. Life hadn't always been that dramatic. In fact, I moved to the area for the opposite reason: quiet. I'd inherited a cabin from my grandfather, a small place that sat on a gentle rise overlooking the backside of the lake. It wasn't glamorous, just weathered wood and a tin roof that sang during rainstorms, but it was the kind of place you go to when you're tired of traffic and office chatter. I came out there to fix it up on weekends, fish off the dock, and maybe, if life slowed down enough, stay for good. The lake itself was the real jewel. My grandfather had been part of the group that built the original dam decades ago, and I grew up knowing the rhythms of the water when it would swell with spring melt, when it would drop during a dry August. For me, it was never about ownership or control. It was about peace, memory, and continuity. That piece cracked the first time I found a notice taped to my boathouse door. It was printed with the HOA seal, bold red letters declaring violation. Unauthorized use of lake access. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. The notice accused me of trespassing on community water and ordered me to cease use of the dock until I applied for permission through the HOA. I read it twice, standing there with my fishing pole in hand, wondering how someone could trespass on a dock built by their own grandfather. I brushed it off as overreach, maybe even a clerical error, but the letters didn't stop. A week later, I got a fine in the mail, $250 for continued violation. It wasn't the money that got me. It was the arrogance of the whole thing. I tried to be reasonable. I called the HO office, asked politely for clarification. The receptionist said the board determined all water access was common property and my dock fell under their regulation. I sent a letter explaining that. My land survey extended to the high water mark and included the inflow channel. No response. At the next board meeting, I stood up during the public comment period and asked, as calmly as I could, why they were fining me for using my own shoreline. They smirked, shuffled papers, and told me if I didn't like it, I could take it up in court. The president actually laughed when I asked if they had reviewed the county's property records. That was the turning point for me. That's when I stopped trying to reason and started reading. I spent nights with dusty maps and old filing cabinets at the county records office. My grandfather had always told me to know what's yours, and he was meticulous about paperwork. Sure enough, buried in the 1962 filing of the original dam construction was the document I needed, the maintenance easement, ownership deed, and water rights assignment. The entire lake existed because of the dam, and the dam sat squarely on my property line. The language was clear: whoever held that parcel held the right to control inflow, outflow, and maintenance access. The OO could host barbecues and sell lakefront lots all they wanted. But without my family's dam, their reservoir was just a depression in the ground. I started documenting every fine they sent, every notice, every smug little email. My neighbors, once friendly, began avoiding me. Some whispered that I was anti-community. My own niece asked why people online were calling me selfish for hogging the lake. Those things stung, but they also sharpened my resolve. By the time the next quarterly HOA meeting rolled around, I was prepared. I had binders of county maps, copies of recorded deeds, and even a notarized affidavit from the original surveyor's office. I didn't storm in or raise my voice. I waited until they brought up agenda item number 4, unauthorized lake usage. The president started in on her usual spiel about fairness and compliance. That's when I laid the deed on the table. No theatrics, no speech. Just a quiet hand sliding across a piece of paper older than most of the board members. The room went dead silent. Their lawyer picked it up, read the first paragraph, and set it down like it had burned his hands. The president tried to bluster, muttering something about updated bylaws, but everyone could see the truth in black and white. The lake wasn't theirs to regulate. It never had been. The aftermath was slow but steady. The fines disappeared, first quietly, then officially. The HOA president resigned within 2 months, citing personal reasons. Their lawyer stopped showing up at meetings, and the board suddenly had no appetite for lake enforcement. Neighbors who once avoided me started waving again, though some couldn't quite meet my eyes. The lake returned to what it always should have been: water for fishing, swimming, and peace. The best part? I didn't have to drain it, restrict access, or file a lawsuit. All I had to do was remind them that the foundation of their little empire flowed through a dam they didn't control. Now, when I walk down to the water, it's quiet again. The notices have stopped. The fines are gone. The only sound is the wind off the lake and the hum of water spilling over the dam, just as my grandfather built it. Sometimes the board members still glance my way, half guilty, half resentful. I don't mind. They know now. They wave when I drive by, or they turn away. Either way, it's quiet, and that's all I ever wanted.